Well, tonight, a live look over downtown Columbus, where the political process is playing out. In part of our state, of course, it's spreading out throughout the country.
At GOP headquarters, many giving speeches of acceptance there tonight. We are joined by Republican strategist Mike Ganadakis, Democrat Greg Haas. But Mike, this was your party's night in a lot of ways here. Every statewide race, and of course that all-important U.S. Senate race. Not surprising.
And not surprising for us. You know, we're very grateful for Ohioans electing Republicans across the board, to include the Ohio Supreme Court races, all three of them. But just moments ago, we learned that the first time in Ohio's history, Republicans now hold 26 of the 33 Ohio Senate seats. We elect the first African-American pro-life woman, Michelle Reynolds, here in Franklin County, too, a very blue county. So I can't speak nationally, but in Ohio, it was a red wave year.
How much of that do you think is due to being a red wave year? How much of it is gerrymandering?
Well, I mean, obviously the gerrymandering is significant, and it was significant enough that when Governor DeWine initially signed it, he apologized to the public for how terrible the districts were, but he signed it anyhow. And so, you know, I think that, you know, that's a significant factor. But you have to admit, and Mike and I have talked about this on the air a couple times tonight, you know, Democratic messaging is horrible. And you know, I don't care how badly the districts are drawn, there is no excuse for allowing 26 seats to the other party. You can't gerrymander 26 seats. I mean, the whole idea of gerrymandering is that you get enough, but you have to allow Democratic districts to exist at the same time, so you get the marginal districts in your favor. That's what redistricting does, or gerrymandering does. There's no excuse for it.
So what happens next when we talk about watching the control of the House, control of the Senate, control of Congress? What does President Biden do to get legislation passed? Well,
I don't think, I mean, while we had a red wave in Ohio, we're not seeing a red wave nationally.
Exactly, not yet, but there's still the concern of what happens as we move forward.
Well, and I think, you know, I mean, Lindsey Graham tonight made some very positive comments earlier about things that he saw that could be worked on together. And that certainly has always been, you know, I mean, that's what Biden has kind of been accused by Democrats of being too quick to try and make things bipartisan. That's what he's going to try and do. And I think we will have more successes.
Well, Carrie and I were talking about this earlier, though. Donald Trump is talking about making an announcement next week. You got to wonder, when is Joe Biden going to decide if he's going to run? You know, what's the canary in the mine? What should both of those men be doing? Because this wasn't a great night nationally for Donald Trump.
Well, in some parts of the country it was, in some parts it wasn't. Areas that he put a lot of stock in did not go his way, and areas he did. So it's mixed bag for President Trump. But at the end of the day, we're all probably going to be asleep by the time the final results. But the Republicans will take back the House tonight, and they will ultimately, in a couple days, have at least 51, 52 seats in the Senate. So sometimes a divided government is good for the rest of us, because it forces both parties to sit down and work together. And that's what we're banking on, that President Biden won't go so left and a Republican-controlled Congress won't go so far right.
But do you think you're going to have a balanced, cooperative Congress when you already have Republicans saying if they take over, they're going to start with impeachment of Joe Biden?
We still have to pass a budget. There's still things we have to do. And as Lindsey Graham said, as Greg said, that we have things to work on to our border, energy security, and so on and so forth. So at the end of the day, it's a good thing what happened tonight.
And I actually think off the air, Mike would probably agree with me on this, but Lorena Boebert losing, it appears that she's going to lose. Lauren Boebert, is probably behind the scenes. McCarthy is like, okay, that's a good one to lose.
Yeah,
you know?
because she's so extreme.
Yeah, and it might firm up his hold. So we don't know about the chemistry yet. We have no idea about what the chemistry of these caucuses are going to be. And so I think a night like tonight is actually not the worst thing that could have happened for the country.
Keep an eye on Georgia. We've been watching this race. What's going to happen with Georgia? We're looking at 49.6 with Herschel Walker leading right now.
We're going to have a runoff, okay, because they have to get to 50%. There'll be a runoff just like there was 2 years ago, and then it'll just be between the incumbent and then obviously Herschel Walker. So that one, I can't see either candidate. Greg, we can agree on that.
Is that a surprise for you?
No, I don't think so. I mean, Georgia was a close state 2 years ago. It's a close state again right now. So, but at the end of the day, when the dust settles, Republicans will have a 51 to 52 seat majority based on just just the math. It's there.
It was interesting. Earlier this evening, we heard Chuck Todd take Georgia, and he did a breakdown, and he called them skippers, people who were voting for the governor, Republicans, but not necessarily even voting in the race for Senate.
Yeah.
Had to be interesting.
Yeah, but
to see
it
that.
turns out it looks like Herschel Walker.
Other
But if
numbers.
they're going to have to do a run out, because as we've tried to explain to people in that state, and I think Florida was the other
Louisiana.
one? Louisiana. You have to have 50%.
Correct.
Or you can't move on. So it doesn't look like either of them might not get 50%.
Right.
So they've got to get that third party candidate out of there and then do a runoff election, and that won't be till December, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And that might decide the control of the Senate as it almost as it did actually last time. So history repeats itself. But at the end of the day, I'm a firm believer that a divided government sometimes, and in this case will be, the best thing that could happen for our country.
And the last thing I would just say is, I think all of us would have bet heavily 6 months ago on a huge red wave. I mean, I would have. Yeah, exactly. That didn't happen. And it didn't happen, the Democrats were faced with global inflation, global gas prices shooting up through the roof, and the natural problems that your party faces in the first midterm election, historically. So from our standpoint, this is not a bad night nationally. I mean, it could have been far worse.
It's still early across the country. There's still a lot of vote counting to do.
We can't put the fork in it yet.
Yeah.
We want to quickly show you a live picture of the stage downtown at the Republican headquarters, where as we sit here talking to each other, we want to let you know we are waiting. J.D. Vance, the projected winner in the U.S. Senate race, is expected to take the stage. We were told at 11:20. It's right now 11:21. We're keeping a close eye on that as we continue this discussion. And I want each of you to look in your crystal ball. I spoke today with U.S. Senator Sherrod Brown, who's going to be on the ballot. He has said already in 2024 he will be running for re-election. Mike, lots of people expected to tee up in your party to challenge him, including, he expects, Frank LaRose and Dave Yost. So they both went to voters tonight asking them to put them in office. Are they going to be seeking the Senate in 2 years?
Both are great personal friends of mine and great elected officials, and won resoundingly tonight. I personally believe, with just one man's speculation, that Frank LaRose will challenge Senator Brown for that United States Senate seat.
But he didn't say that as he asked voters to vote for him for Secretary of State tonight.
No, certainly he didn't. Well, he did, and he got elected to be Secretary of State. He'll do that, and candidates run for other races at all times. So I think Frank LaRose will run against Sherrod Brown, and I think Dave Yost is going to run for governor.
What about DeSantis?
DeSantis, well, there's a long way to go there. We'll see. Let's see what happens.
You mean DeSanctimonious? But I got to tell you real quick, I threw my crystal ball out when it said Governor Cordray. I just said, I don't want this thing anymore. I don't need it. So I don't have one.
That didn't work out for your party. I think we're going to check in with Dave now and let you all know. We want to thank both of you, let you all know we're keeping a close eye on what's happening with J.D. Vance. But
I wanted to talk Arizona, but that governor's race there. But Dave